Hello, welcome to Session 8, Swap Contract. The session goal is students are able to understand and apply the derivative instruments, and the module goal is students are able to understand and apply derivative instruments such as swap contract. The learning outcome is to describe swaps and to learn how to calculate swaps. Swaps. A swap is an agreement between two parties to exchange cash flows based on some agreed basis. Some of the most common are: first, interest rate swap; second, currency swap. Interest rate swap is also known as plain vanilla swap, an agreement between two parties to exchange interest payments. The fixed rate payer is effectively short a fixed rate bond and a long floating rate bond. When interest rate increase, the value of the swap to the fixed rate payer increases. The fixed rate receiver in the interest rate swap agreement effectively has a long position in a fixed rate bond and a short position in a floating rate bond. If the interest rate declines, the value of the swap to the fixed rate receiver increases. So, interest rate swap, the example. A company with a floating rate exposure can use a payer swap, pay fixed, receive floating, to change it into a fixed rate exposure. For example, Company A has a comparative advantage in the floating rate market but prefers to borrow fixed rate funds. Company B has a comparative advantage in the fixed rate market but prefers to borrow floating rate funds. So this is the table of the numbers. And so the company A borrows in floating rate market where it has comparative advantage. Company B borrows in the fixed rate market where it has comparative advantage. Then swap it. The exchange of cash flows is separate from the actual loans. The parties do not literally pay each other's interest. There is no exchange of principal, only the net difference between the interest payment changes hands. The next one is currency swaps. The currency swap is similar to an interest rate swap, but the amounts borrowed are different in currencies. Because the loans are in different currencies, the principal will be swapped under a currency swap. One party may have a comparative advantage in their own currency but would prefer to borrow in other party's currency. They will borrow in their own currency, swap the principal, swap the interest payments, and swap the principal back upon maturity. This is an example of currency swaps. A euro-based company requires USD but does not have access to direct USD borrowing or finds it prohibitively expensive. The company decides to borrow in euros at 90-day Euribor and enter into a cross-currency basis swap to USD based on 90-day USD LIBOR. The swap has a tenor of 2 years with a quarterly settlement. The principal on the euro loan is 50 million euro, and the dollar per euro exchange rate at initiation of the swap is $1.1236. So this is the figure. Each counterparty pays variable interest for the currency they initially receive. The euro-based company will be paying USD interest to the swap dealer. The swap dealer will be paying the euro interest to the company, which will then use it to service the interest on its loan with the bank. So this is the figure. And at the swap's expiration, the notional principal amounts are exchanged. The amounts are the same as those exchanged initially. Changes in the exchange rate over the life of the swap do not affect these amounts. So there is no uncertainty on the principal flows. The European company receives the 50 million euro and uses to repay its bank loan. So this is the second example. So we have company C and D, Australian company and New Zealand company. Australian company would prefer to borrow New Zealand dollar but has a comparative advantage in Australian dollar. Meanwhile, company D would prefer an Australian dollar but has a comparative advantage borrowing New Zealand dollar. The agreed exchange rate is 1.5 Australian dollar per New. So this is the step that must be completed. First, initial exchange of principals. Second, exchange of interest payments. And the last step is the re-exchange of principals. The principal will be swapped at the beginning of the swap and swapped back at the end at exchange rates agreed upon at the beginning of the swap. Rationale for the existence of currency swaps. First, obtaining lower cost of funds. Second, hedging foreign exchange risks. So this is the nature of the commodity swap markets. Difficult to find a counterparty. A broker can be used to match parties. Intermediaries often quote two-way prices to make a profit and compensate for risks. So this is the end of the session. You have two questions to be answered. First, the swap floating rate usually is based on A, the prime rate, B, LIBOR, C, the T-bill rate, D, the call money rate. Question 2. Regarding interest rate swaps, all of the following are true except A, you may either pay or receive the floating rate, B, you may either pay or receive the fixed rate, C, the principal changes hands at the beginning of the swap, D, interest may be determined in advance or in arrears. Thank you for watching. Bye.